Last season, the Giants' defense fell apart. They finished 30th in yards allowed, 30th in points allowed, and 30th in takeaways. They tied the NFL record for blown double-digit leads in a single season. Shane Bowen got fired in late November. Charlie Bolin finished out the year as the interim DC. The whole thing basically just collapsed. But that defense doesn't exist anymore. The Giants hired John Harbaugh as their new head coach in January, and 3 weeks later, Harbaugh hired Dennard Wilson, a defensive coordinator whose 2024 Tennessee Titans finished second in the NFL in pass defense and second in total yards allowed. And at his own post-draft podium last week, Harbaugh told reporters, quote, "Our defense is pretty flexible, positionless, you might call it. Brian Burns, Abdul Carter, Kayvon Thibodeaux, Arvell Reese, none of them are going to have a fixed home in this defense. Wilson's corners will press the line of scrimmage, his safeties will disguise the coverage, and the four-man rush that stood still all of last year, it's about to start moving." So today we're going to be breaking down this defense in 3 parts, with one critical setup piece up front, because the single biggest scheme shift here in this hire is one that almost nobody is talking about. Then the other 3 parts. First, what Wilson actually ran in Tennessee, the full system in 2024, and the stripped-down version when his roster fell apart in 2012. Secondly, why this specific Giants roster, even after the Dexter Lawrence trade, is a very clean fit for what Wilson wants to run. And third, the 4 edge rusher problem and the Giants' modern NASCAR package that can solve it. Let's get right into it. Let's start this story with a reflection, because to understand what Dennard Wilson is bringing, you have to understand what Shane Bowen was previously building. Shane Bowen installed a modern, single-high, man-coverage-heavy system, a lot of cover 3, cover 1, and 2 read principles. The 2024 Giants finished 20th in pass defense, which isn't really a disaster, and the framework was fine. The problem was the execution, and it showed up most clearly in one statistic: press rate. Per Big Blue View, the Giants' press rate fell from 51% under Wink Martindale in 2023 to 33% under Bowen in 2024. That's a massive philosophical shift. And it happened in a year when the Giants were investing in press coverage corners. By 2025, the issue had calcified. Bowen's defense gave up more yards, more points, had fewer takeaways. The team set the NFL record for blown double-digit leads, and on November 24th of last year, the Giants fired him. Charlie Bolin finished out the season as the interim defensive coordinator. And now Dennard Wilson is stepping in as the new DC. And that's the setup. Wilson isn't going to be blowing up this system. He's going to be installing the version of it that Shane Bowen just couldn't execute. Before we dig deeper into Wilson's system, there's one specific philosophical change that you need to understand, because it's the single biggest scheme shift in this hire and almost nobody is talking about it. Coverage shell, specifically man versus zone coverage. The 2025 Giants under Bowen ran man coverage on roughly 45% of their dropbacks, the second highest rate in the NFL per Pro Football Focus. That's not an accident. Bowen was a man coverage believer, and he doubled down on it in 2025, even when the secondary clearly couldn't hold up. Thibodeaux was on an island, Banks was on an island, the slot defender was on an island. Every single snap, somebody on the back end was getting attacked one-on-one with no backside help to bail them out. Wilson is the total opposite. The 2024 Tennessee Titans played zone coverage on roughly 75% of their dropbacks. That's nearly the inverse of what the Giants were doing last season. Wilson's defense doesn't ask any player to win in isolation. It asks the structure to be sound. Pattern match rules, eyes on the quarterback, deep help on every concept that breaks vertical. Why does this matter so much? 2 reasons. First, modern NFL offenses eat man coverage. Mobile quarterbacks scramble against man because every defender has his back turned to the football, chasing a receiver. Zone keeps 11 defenders looking at the football. That alone is worth points in a league where every other quarterback can run nowadays. Second, zone coverage is more durable. When a corner gets beaten on a vertical in man, it's a touchdown. When the same thing happens in zone, the safety over the top makes the play. The 2025 Titans saw this when L'Jarius Sneed went down. Wilson kept playing zone, and the back end actually held up. The 2025 Giants didn't have that failsafe, and that was due to schematics, not personnel. And that's the philosophical reset. Press at the line, zone behind it, 11 defenders watching the football. Now let's see how Wilson actually builds the system on top of that foundation. But before we dive further into it, I just want to give a quick shout out to the sponsor of today's episode, which is Prize Picks. If you aren't playing on Prize Picks yet, you're missing out. Prize Picks is America's #1 sports picks app. It's a daily fantasy sports platform, and the app is really easy to use. No complicated lines to worry about. All you do is pick more or less on a few players' stats and lock in your lineup. It's incredibly straightforward, and it's available in most states, including California, Texas, Florida, and of course the tri-state area. So let's go ahead and take a look at Prize Picks right now. If you go ahead, you log on and you scroll through, you'll find their NFL season picks, and this is where we can have a lot of fun coming out of the 2026 NFL draft. If you take a look here at receiving yards, they've started to load in these wide receivers that were drafted top 10. And I'm sure a lot of you saw what Malik Neighbors had to say about Carnell Tate as a potential WR1 in Tennessee. As much as I love the Titans giving him a weapon, I'm going to pick less on his stats right there because, man, I don't know if he's going to be ready to play that WR1 role as a rookie. We'll see. Maybe he develops into it. But for now, I think that his receiving yardage is going to be a little bit limited. But looking through some more of these picks, one that you guys know I love, if you go over to passing touchdowns, I don't see how Jackson Dart doesn't put up more than 19.5 passing touchdowns this upcoming season. So that's how easy it is. You pick more or less on a couple of stats, submit your lineup, and that's that. And one of the great parts about Prize Picks, guys, you can follow people on the app. You can follow me at Anthony Rivardo and tail all of my picks and lineups. So definitely make sure to check out Prize Picks, sign up using code HMA, and you will get $50 in lineups instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. So good luck, enjoy the games, and remember to always play responsibly. So what is the Wilson system at full strength? The 2024 Titans defense, Wilson's first year as DC, finished second in the NFL in total yards allowed and second in pass defense. That's an elite outcome, but you have to be honest about the caveat. That same Titans team was 30th in score and defense and 26th in run defense. The unit was elite at preventing pass yardage and bad at preventing points. We'll come back to why that matters for the Giants, but first, here's how he got the pass defense to number 2 in the league. Step 1, press coverage at the line of scrimmage. Wilson's first quote at his introductory press conference with the Tennessee Titans was this, quote, "From day one, it's you press everything, period." End quote. He meant it. His corners played press alignment as the default with off coverage reserved as a changeup rather than the base. Step 2, zone heavy with 2 high disguises. We just covered the headline number, 75% zone, and that's the foundation. But the texture of that zone matters. The 2024 Titans base was a hybrid 3-4 that operated as a 2-4-5 nickel on roughly 70% of their snaps. They lived in 2 high shells pre-snap. Cover 4 in particular was a Wilson staple. Tennessee played 4 deep coverage on roughly 1/5 of all defensive snaps in 2024, one of the highest rates in the league. But here's the key word, pre-snap. Wilson's 2 high looks were a starting point, not the destination. Post-snap, those safeties rotated. Same alignment, different coverage. The QB had to make this read after the ball was already in his hands. Step 3, simulated pressure, not blitzing. Wilson's 2024 Titans actually blitzed at a below average rate, 20.9%, 23rd in the league. He didn't have to send extra rushers. His pressure came from sim looks, show 6, rush 4, drop 2 of the front 7 into hook curl coverage. The 4-man rush moved constantly, and the offensive coordinator across from him never knew which 2 of the 4 would actually be rushing. And that's the full system. Press corners, zone heavy with 2 high disguises, simulated pressures. It produced the second best pass defense in football in his first year as a defensive coordinator. The caveat, yeah, the run defensive points allowed numbers. It's a real caveat and we'll address it, but the pass defense framework is real, and it's the system the Giants just hired him to install here in New York. Now for the tougher part of Wilson's resume, his 2025 season with the Tennessee Titans. The 2025 Titans defense did not look like the 2024 version. The personnel turned over. Star cornerback L'Jarius Sneed was lost for the year after week 7. Interior defender T'Vondre Sweat missed weeks 2 through 6. Veteran safety Quandre Diggs was waived after week 9. By the back half of the season, Wilson didn't have the secondary to press at the rate he wanted. The unit finished 25th overall in defense, 28th in EPA per play. The system he wanted to run just wasn't possible, so he adapted. Match Quarters film analyst Cody Alexander, one of the most respected scheme writers in the public space, covered this in a long-form piece called A Masterclass in Schematic Adaptation. Here's what he documented Wilson keeping when the talent fell apart. Wilson stayed in zone. Actually, he leaned into it harder because zone is more durable than man when your secondary is patchwork. He pivoted to what Alexander calls the 2-man front, a compressed structure with 2 true defensive linemen and 4 off-ball defenders working in space, almost a permanent sub-package. And he leaned hard on what staff and analysts called the sweat tax, borrowed from his interior anchor T'Vondre Sweat, the idea being that a single elite interior rusher getting doubled on almost every passing down allows the rest of the defense to be organized around forcing offenses to pay for that double team somewhere else. So why does this matter for the Giants? because it tells you what the core of Wilson's system is. The press everything, zone heavy, sim pressure framework is the aspiration. The two-man sweat tack structure is the spine he falls back on when something in the personnel breaks. He'll bend to fit personnel. The question for 2026 is which roster he's actually working with. Here's where you have to be honest about the roster, because the most important player on the 2025 Giants defensive front is now in Cincinnati. Dexter Lawrence requested a trade on April 6th. 2 weeks later, April 19th, the Saturday before the draft, the Giants traded him to the Bengals for the 10th overall pick. That trade gave the Giants 2 top 10 picks in the 2026 NFL draft. But it also took their best interior defender off the roster. Wilson's sweat tax framework was built around an elite interior rusher. The Giants no longer have one. So the personnel fit you're about to hear is not the version that Shane and Harbaugh planned for in January, back when Harbaugh referred to Dexter Lawrence as the middle stone of the defense. Back when Dennard Wilson stood up on the table to keep Dexter Lawrence, saying he was key to the defensive scheme. But here's the version of the defense that they have today. Let's start with the secondary. Paulson Thibodeaux, signed in March to a 3-year, $54 million deal, is a press cornerback. That's literally how he made his name in New Orleans. Then in this draft, the Giants spent the 37th overall pick on Colton Hood out of Tennessee, a long, twitchy, press-capable corner who had ties to Harbaugh and is projected to win the CB2 job in training camp. They also signed Greg Newsome II in free agency on a 1-year deal worth up to $10 million. Newsome was a first-round pick in 2021 with starting experience at multiple positions, including boundary cornerback and nickel. Drew Phillips, the team's 2024 third-round pick, is already established as the nickel cornerback. That's 3 outside corners in a slot, all of whom Wilson would have walked into in 2024 and immediately said yes. Now let's talk about the safeties. Javon Holland was signed last offseason to a 3-year, $45 million deal, and he is a true 2-high safety. He's instinctual, rangy, and a high IQ communicator. Tyler Nubin, the team's second-round pick in 2024, is the buzz-down compliment who can play single high in a pinch. Both are exactly the personnel profile Wilson built his Tennessee disguise scheme around. Interchangeable safeties who can rotate post-snap without giving up the call. The disguise package Wilson is going to install, these two are already capable of running it. And then the defensive front. This is where the math has changed. Without Dexter Lawrence, the interior rotation now runs through newly signed defensive tackle Shelby Harris, second-year third-round pick Darius Alexander out of Toledo, and whoever else the Giants bring in, like potentially DJ Reader. Roy Robertson Harris is still here as useful depth, and Darius Alexander has potential, but none of these guys are a Tavondre Sweat or Dexter Lawrence anchor. So Wilson's first job is figuring out where the interior pressure will come from with the personnel he's got, and that almost certainly means leaning harder on the edge rushers. This is the cleanest scheme personnel fit Wilson has ever walked into in the secondary, and the most uncertain interior he's ever worked with as a defensive coordinator. The whole projection rides on the Giants' edge rusher rotation. So let's dive into it. The Giants have 4 first-round picks invested in their edge/hybrid pass rusher room for 2026. Brian Burns, acquired from Carolina in March of 2024 for a second-round pick, a future 5th-round pick, and a 5th-round pick swap. Then they signed him to a 5-year, $150 million extension. That's a lot invested into their top pass rusher. Kayvon Thibodeaux, the 5th overall pick in 2022 out of Oregon. Abdul Carter, the 3rd overall pick in last year's draft. And now Arvell Reese, the 5th overall pick in 2026 out of Ohio State. Drafted as a linebacker with Big Ten Linebacker of the Year honors, but in Harbaugh's own words at his post-draft press conference, quote, he'll line up in the A-gap, the B-gap, the C-gap, the D-gap, and off the edge. End quote. Translation, he gets used as a hybrid linebacker and edge in sub-package looks. More on that in the breakdown that I previously posted on the channel. Check it out in the description. 3 of those 4 guys are pure edge rushers. The 4th is a hybrid, plus a rotational veteran in Chauncey Golston, who the Giants signed last offseason. The math doesn't work in any conventional defensive front. So, Dennard Wilson and John Harbaugh aren't going to play a conventional front. Here's how the rotation likely shakes out, based on Harbaugh's public comments and Dennard Wilson's Tennessee usage patterns. On early downs against the run, you'll see 2 of the edges, probably Burns and Carter or Thibodeaux, anchored at conventional edge rusher positions. Reese plays his natural will position spot next to the green dot linebacker Tremaine Edmonds. The 4th pure edge rotates on early downs, conserving energy and snaps for 3rd down. But on obvious passing downs, the geometry chemistry changes completely. Reese walks down to the line of scrimmage. Carter, the most positionally flexible player out of anyone in the room, can kick inside. And then you suddenly have 4 pass rushers on the field, 3 of them top 5 overall picks, none of whom are interior defensive linemen, and all of whom can win one-on-one on the outside. That's the modern NASCAR package. The 2026 version, if Wilson and Harbaugh build it the way the personnel suggests, runs Burns at one end, Kayvon Thibodeaux at the other, Carter rushing from the movable interior alignment, and Reese walked down from the off-ball linebacker position to rush. 4 first-round picks, 4 sub-package rushers. Offensive lines have never blocked together at the NFL level. This is what positionless actually means in practice. Harbaugh's quote was specifically about Arvell Reese, but the principle is bigger. The 4 best rushers on the roster, on the field, on third down. The offensive coordinator across from you not knowing which of them is coming, or any of them are aligned, or who's dropping into coverage and who's rushing. Having 4 guys who could rush after the passer and whoop offensive linemen one-on-one is something to get really excited about. Now let's put it all together. A press-capable corner room that finally has the personnel to execute. A 2-high safety duo built for disguises. The most positionally flexible edge room in all of football. A hybrid rookie at 5th overall who Harbaugh has openly said will move all over the formation. And a defensive coordinator whose 2024 Titans finished 2nd in pass defense and 2nd in total yards allowed. Now there still are the obvious concerns. Wilson's 2024 unit was 30th in points allowed and 26th against the run. The Giants no longer have Dexter Lawrence anchoring the interior, and Wilson's 2025 unit, when the secondary fell apart, finished 25th overall. So the floor is not automatic here. But the pieces, the revamped secondary, the 2 hybrid safeties, the edge room, the defensive coordinator, all of this matches up better and cleaner than at any point during the Shane Bowen era. Top 10 in pass defense is realistic. Top 3 in pass defense is probably the ceiling that they're striving. And the bigger question by week 8 is whether the Giants can manufacture a pass rush from the front without an elite interior anchor. If the answer is yes, this defense can be very good. If the answer is no, well, this ceiling will drop. But with so much invested in this defensive line and with such exciting pass rushers on this roster and a new defensive coordinator with a specific vision, there's a lot to be excited about. And there is reason to believe this Giants defense can make a major turnaround in 2026. And that's the breakdown. The Shane Bowen era is over. Hallelujah. Dennard Wilson is here, and he didn't just bring a system. He brought a total philosophical shift. Press corners, disguised safeties, a moving 4-man rush, and a new NASCAR package built around 3 first-round edge rushers and a 5th overall hybrid. This is a new defensive scheme to get really excited about. So drop a comment with what you want to see me break down next. I'm thinking either a Francis Maui-Noah breakdown or maybe a look at what Colton Hood can bring to this new Giants secondary. Vote down below in the comment section. Smash the like, subscribe if you're new, because we're going to be doing breakdowns like this a lot over the next few months. I'll catch you on the next one. Have a good one, and let's go New York Giants.
Perfect.